What if I told you that there's a simple technique you can use that'll grab and keep learner attention, put their brains in a state where they actually neurologically learn more, and it can cut down the time it takes you to develop your e-learning? I'm talking about randomness, which sounds simple, but it can be extremely powerful when you apply it well. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use it strategically to make your training more exciting for any learner, boost your training's impact while making your development life easier. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Mary Jo. I'm a former video game producer, and now I teach e-learning designers how to use game mechanics to make their training more engaging, but especially more effective. So if learner engagement or impact is something that you're struggling with, you might want to join us. There's a link below to speak to me directly. Now let's get started. Imagine you're watching Game 7 in the NBA Finals and your team is losing by 2 points and there's only a couple of seconds left on the clock and a player on your team takes a desperate final shot. What's happening to you in that moment? Time slows down, you're holding your breath, and nothing is going to break your focus until you know the outcome, right? We're all familiar with that state of focus when you're really hoping for something to happen. Now imagine that exact same thing, but this time it's a recording of an old game. You've already seen it and you already know how it's going to end. In that case, you're not holding your breath, you're not as focused. So the only difference is in one case you have uncertainty of outcome and in the other you have certainty. When you're not sure what's going to happen, you're way more engaged. And that state of focus is almost magical because not only are you paying perfect attention in that moment, but also because you're actually capable of learning more when you're in that state. And to understand why that is, we have to look at what's happening in your brain during that moment of focus. So when you give a monkey a treat, like a piece of candy, he's gonna be happy and there's gonna be a little spike of dopamine in his brain. We all get that. But if you train the monkey to associate a bell with the coming of a treat, then that dopamine spike happens when he hears the bell, more so than when he actually gets the reward a couple of seconds later. But the surprising thing is, let's say the monkey's been trained to know that when the bell rings, there's only a 50-50 chance he's going to get the treat. What happens then? Well, in that case, you get a spike of dopamine when he hears the bell, and then there's a moment where he's not sure he's going to get the reward, and during that time of anticipation, the dopamine ramps up until he finds out if he got it or not. So of those three situations, you get the most dopamine in the scenario where there's uncertainty of outcome. That ramp up of anticipation is what's happening during the basketball shot when you're watching with unbreakable attention. Now, it's often said that dopamine is a reward hormone, but it's actually thought to play more of a role in motivation and in directing attention and behavior. But on top of that, dopamine also enhances the creation of connections between neurons, in other words, learning. All this to say that if you apply uncertainty, you can induce that state of focus in your learners, and that can make your training more effective. So let's look at how you can apply different types of randomness in e-learning to create different impacts on the learner. The first type of randomness is input randomness. Let's say you're playing a quiz game and someone picks a card at random and asks you the question. That's the challenge. And then you answer the question, that's player action, and then you find out if you got it right or wrong. That's outcome. In this particular case, chance or randomness determines what card was picked, and that determines how hard the challenge is going to be for you. Maybe you'll get an easy question, maybe not. So input randomness happens before player action. You're probably already using input randomness in your e-learning courses if you're using question banks, where you make up a whole bunch of questions and then the learner gets asked a random selection of those questions. That's a form of input randomness too, but you can go so much further than question banks. Let's say you have different types of questions, like some fill in the blank, some drag and drop, multiple choice, time challenge, accuracy, whatever. And before you ask the question, you have the learner spin a wheel to determine the type of question they'll get. If you show them that randomness, they're going to start hoping to get one question type over another, and that leads to more attention and engagement. But input randomness can also speed up your development by building new questions for you on the fly automatically. Let's say I'm teaching the size of different countries relative to each other. I could have a challenge like this where I say which one of these two countries is bigger, France or the UK, China or Brazil. I could build a whole bunch of questions like these, but if I really wanted to do it quickly, I could simply have one bank of countries with all their sizes, and at each question, the program just picks two of them at random and presents them to you. So I don't have to make up every individual question, they're created on the fly. If I include all 197 countries, I would get over 38,000 possible questions, so each playthrough would really be different, which makes the program incredibly replayable. It also means that the learners can't just learn the questions and memorize memorize the test. They really have to know their stuff in order to do well consistently across all these different games. That's really useful if you're teaching something that requires practice and you want to create a lot of different challenges for the learner. Another example of this is you can have a pool of possible answers, like choose the best thing to say to an angry customer. Each answer in the pool has a different quality rating, with some great answers and some crap answers and some so-so. Whenever the question is asked, the program can pick 4 of these choices at random. Again, that gives you lots of possible permutations without you having to actually create a huge number of questions. So that's input randomness, and of course the other type is output randomness. This randomness happens after the player's action. So for example, you get a task, and if you do it perfectly, you get to spin the reward wheel. So here the reward is randomly determined after the player's action. Sometimes I use these when I don't want to give the learner a reward for everything that they accomplish. I want to make the rewards feel more precious and less common. So instead of giving them a reward each time, I give them a shot at the reward. So that can help me with my reward balancing. But another really important way to use output randomness in training is to simulate reality. Say you're training veterinarians with a branching scenario where they have to decide how to treat this dog's allergies. Usually in this scenario, there's a right answer and some wrong ones, but in reality, not all dogs will react exactly the same way to a treatment. You might get some unwanted side effects sometimes. So here you could add a little bit of randomness to the outcome. So if I pick treatment A, there's an 80% chance it'll work, but sometimes there's a bad side effect and sometimes nothing happens at all. That might be closer to reality than if every choice always has the same outcome. It also means that when I replay, even if I choose the same thing twice, I might get a different result, just like in real life. And you can make those percentages different for each treatment, again to more closely reflect the actual risk of side effects for each treatment. So that's output randomness. Now for some of you, randomness equals loss of control, and it can be a little bit scary to give up some of your design control over to chance. But remember that you can control exactly how much impact chance is going to have. So let's say you're using output randomness to determine how many points a learner gets as a reward for answering correctly. You can play with that range of possible outcomes. If there's a big difference between the smallest reward and the biggest one, then the score is largely going to be determined by luck. So randomness has a big impact in this case. But if the range of rewards is narrow, then luck makes less of a difference and the score is going to be more determined by performance. That's up to you. Or let's say you're randomly picking 10 questions out of a question bank to ask the learner. In that case, they could get lucky and get 10 easy questions or get 10 hard ones if they're unlucky. To balance that, you could have different pools and you make sure that they get 3 easy, 3 hard, and 4 randomly picked from everything. Again, that reduces the effect of randomness on the difficulty, but you'll still get that engagement and that replayability. Like I said, this is really powerful stuff that you can use in a huge number of ways. So if you're sitting there going, I know I can do this, but you're not sure where to start, I'd love to support you directly through my program. And again, that link is in the description. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.